This is John the Witness on the Mind Blowers channel, bringing you hardcore Bible facts. Recently, a well-known Christian pastor said that not only is the U.S. president justified in waging war against quote-unquote evil nations, but is also justified in killing the leaders of these nations. His basis for such a bold statement is Romans 13. But is that what Jesus intended by this verse? What would Jesus say about such words? Let's first look at Romans 13. Let every soul be subject to the higher powers, for there is no power but of God. The powers that be are ordained of God. Whosoever therefore resists the power resists the ordinance of God, and they that resist shall receive to themselves damnation. For rulers are not a terror to good work, but to the evil. Will you then not be afraid of the power? Do that which is good, and thou shalt have praise of the same. For he is the minister of God to thee for good. But if thou do that which is evil, be afraid. For he bears not the sword in vain. For he is the minister of God, a revenger to execute wrath upon him that does evil. Let's look more closely at the word minister, because this is part of why some get confused and think that wars waged by America are just. To most, when they see the word minister, they automatically assume a church leader or divine authority. But that is not the only definition of minister, and when it comes to the beastly kingdoms of this satanic world, that is the farthest thing from what it meant in this context. In the Merriam-Webster dictionary, the very first word that comes up in the definition is agent. So let's now look at that definition. One that acts or exerts power. So in other words, Romans 13 is saying that all higher government authorities, including the powerful demons behind them, are simply agents acting within the boundaries God has set for them to act within. If you go back and read the book of Job, you will see how God allowed Satan to persecute Job within certain limits. For instance, God did not allow Satan to kill him. Thus, temporarily, Satan was an agent of God to test Job's faith. This does not mean that Satan was somehow buddy-buddy with God and his blasphemy was forgiven. This does not mean that Satan's actions are blessed by God. Also, we see in Romans 9:17 that God can single out leaders of the beast system for certain special tasks for a greater divine purpose. Not that such a leader is righteous, but so that God can guide human affairs in a certain direction to avoid their own demise, and at the same time show that God is ultimately in control. Given all of this, why would a Christian leader then twist Romans 13 to justify wars that America, which is the current version of the beast of Daniel chapter 2, starts? Romans 13 did not specifically say America is the only agent of God, but that actually all higher authorities are. So why would America be justified in waging war against North Korea, yet North Korea is not? That's nonsense. Jesus Christ made it very clear. His kingdom is not of this world. Therefore, all kingdoms in power now, including America, are part of Satan's kingdom, which is operating within limits set by God Almighty. Daniel 10 verse 13 is proof that the worldly kingdoms are of Satan, because a powerful angel of God had to fight for 3 weeks against a powerful demon in charge of Persia, who probably was resisting the change in beast power from Persia to Greece. The wars between Persia and Greece were not just wars, but were set in motion within limits God set for prophecy to move ahead as planned. Satan and his demons know that with each change in world power, they get closer to their eternal punishment, so they fight hard at the cost of many human lives. St. Augustine once taught the idea of just war, and he probably had a better reason way back then than do today's Christian leaders. But even his ideas on war are not consistent with what Jesus taught. Keep this in mind. I'm John the Witness. Stay strong in the faith of Jesus Christ. Amen.